"I beseech your majesty," began Drinian. "No, my lord," said Caspian, "your place is with the ship, and you have had a day's work while we five have idled." There was a lot of argument about this, but in the end Caspian had his way. As the crew marched off to the shore in the gathering dusk, none of the five watchers, except perhaps Reepicheep, could avoid a cold feeling in the stomach. They took some time choosing their seats at the perilous table. Probably everyone had the same reason, but no one said it out loud, for it was really a rather nasty choice. One could hardly bear to sit all night next to those three terrible, hairy objects which, if not dead, were certainly not alive in the ordinary sense. On the other hand, to sit at the far end, so that you would see them less and less as the night grew darker, and wouldn't know if they were moving, and perhaps wouldn't see them at all by about 2 o'clock. No, it was not to be thought of. So they sauntered round and round the table, saying, "What about here?" or "And perhaps a bit further on," or "Why not this side?" till at last they settled down somewhere about the middle, but nearer from the sleepers than they to the other end. It was about 10 by now and almost dark. These strange new constellations burned in the east. Lucy would have liked it better if they had been the leopard and the ship and other friends of the Narnian sky. They wrapped themselves in their sea cloaks and sat still and waited. At first there was some attempt at talk, but it didn't come to much, and they sat, and all the time they heard the waves breaking on the beach. After hours that seemed like ages, there came a moment when they all knew they had been dozing a moment before were all suddenly wide awake. The stars were all in quite different positions from those that they had last noticed. The sky was very black except for the faintest possible grayness in the east. They were cold, though thirsty, and stiff, and none of them spoke because now at last something was happening. Before them, beyond the pillars, there was the slope of a low hill. And now a door opened in the hillside, and light appeared in the doorway, and a figure came out, and the door shut behind it. The figure carried a light, and this light was really all that they could see distinctly. It came slowly nearer and nearer, till at last it stood right at the table opposite them. Now they could see that it was a tall girl, dressed in a single long garment of clear blue, which left her arms bare. She was bareheaded, and her yellow hair hung down her back, and when they looked at her they thought they had never before known what beauty meant. The light which she had been carrying was a tall candle in a silver candlestick, which she now set upon the table. If there had been any wind off the sea earlier in the night, it must have died down by now, for the flame of the candle burned as straight and still as if it were in a room with the windows shut and the curtains drawn. Gold and silver on the table shone in its light. Lucy now noticed something lying lengthwise on the table which had escaped her attention before. It was a knife of stone, sharp as steel, a cruel-looking, ancient-looking thing. No one had spoken a word. Then, Reepicheep first, and Caspian next, they all rose to their feet, because they felt that she was a great lady. "Travelers, who have come from far to Aslan's table," said the girl, "why do you not eat and drink?" "Madam," said Caspian, "we feared the food because we thought it had cast our friends into an enchanted sleep." "They have never tasted it," she said. "Please," said Lucy, "what happened to them?" "7 years ago," said the girl, "they came here in a ship whose sails were rags and her timbers ready to fall apart. There were a few others with them, sailors, and when they came to this table one said, 'Here is a good place. Let us set sail and reef sail and row no longer, but sit down and end our days in peace.' And the second said, 'No, let us re-embark and sail for Narnia and the West. It may be that Mizraz is dead.' But the third, who was a very masterful man, leapt up and said, 'No, by heaven, we are men and telmarines, but not brutes. What should we do but seek adventure after adventure? We have not long to live in any event. Let us spend what is left in seeking the unpeopled world behind the sunrise.' And they quarrelled. And as they quarrelled, he caught up the knife of stone which lies here on the table, and would have fought with his comrades. But it is a thing not right for him to touch, and as his fingers closed upon the hilt, deep sleep fell upon all three. Till the enchantment is undone, they will never wake." "What is this knife of stone?" asked Eustace. "Do none of you know it?" said the girl. "I think," said Lucy, "I've seen something like it before. It was a knife like that the White Witch used when she killed Aslan at the stone table long ago." "It was the same," said the girl, "and it was brought here to be kept in honor while the world lasts." Edmund, who had been looking more and more uncomfortable for the last few minutes, now spoke. "Look here," he said, "I hope I'm not a coward, about eating this food, I mean, and I'm sure I don't mean to be rude, but we've had a lot of queer adventures on this voyage of ours, and things aren't always what they seem. When I look in your face I can't help believing all you say, but then that's just what might happen with a witch too. How are we to know that you're a friend?" "You can't know," said the girl. "You can only believe, or not." After a moment's pause, Reepicheep's small voice was heard. "Sire," he said of Caspian, of your courtesy fill my cup with wine from that flagon. It is too big for me to lift. I will drink to the lady." Caspian obeyed, and the mouse, standing on the table, held up a golden cup between its tiny paws and said, "Lady, I pledge you." Then it fell to on a cold peacock, and in a short while everyone else followed its example. All were very hungry, and the meal, if not quite what you had wanted for an early breakfast, was excellent as a very late supper. "Why is it called Aslan's table?" asked Lucy presently. "It is set here by his bidding," said the girl, "for those who come so far. Some call this the island the world's end, for though you can sail further, this is the beginning of the end."